Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to be doing another Q&A, and in this Q&A I thought I'd try something a little different and make it a little bit more focused on one specific subject. So this video is going to be all about lenses. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Nigel and I make videos on tips, tricks, and reviews for more budget-conscious filmmakers. So if you're into that kind of stuff, please consider subscribing. Now let's get on to the Q&A, and all of these questions were submitted by my subscribers, so all of you. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm gonna try to get through as many as I can in this video without making it too long, and please forgive me in advance for more than likely pronouncing some of your usernames wrong. But first, I need to get some coffee, so just give me a second. All right, that's better. All right, so the first question, cats, dogs, both? Well, this is my cat Waffles, and this is my dog Mabel. Actually, let's start off with questions from my Patreon account. If you want to join me on Patreon, I'll have a card right up there. So this question is by Tiff, aka TheFemGeek. She's asking if I've ever done any paid shoots with like older vintage style lenses. And honestly, I haven't really. I think the closest I've gotten was I shot almost an entire wedding with a Canon EOS M and a 35mm f1.6 old C-mount lens. That's as close as I've gotten to, doing a paid gig with an older vintage style lens. So this question is from AndyofCT, and he's asking if image stabilization can negatively affect your image on sub $1,000 lenses. And as far as I know, image stabilization doesn't actually affect like the sharpness or anything like that of your lens. I don't think you have to worry about it, making your image soft or something like that. So this question is from Grant Wayne, and he's asking if the only lens I had was a Canon 50mm f1.8, what other lens would I invest in? Now I'm assuming he's talking about using that lens on a crop sensor body like a Canon 80D or something. And if that's the only lens I had, I would probably go with something more of a 50mm equivalent, because the 50mm on an 80D would be like an 80mm field of view. So I'd probably look for like a 30mm by Sigma or something like that, or I'd probably go with like a wide angle, like a Tokina 11-16. So this question is by Tomas Z. Labzinski. Probably pronounced that wrong. What focal length do you use most often? If you had to choose two primes, which ones would you recommend? The focal lengths that I use the most, just because of doing my YouTube videos, is my 12mm f1.4, which is what you're seeing me on right now, and that gives me about a 24mm equivalent field of view. And other than this lens, I use this lens. This is the Panasonic Leica 25mm f1.4. And I use this for interviews or portraits when I'm taking photos or something like that. So the 12 and the 25 are a great combo. It gives a 24 and a 50 equivalent field of view. So these are the two that I go with most often. So this question is by Ben Lebron, and he's asking, I'm trying to decide between two wide angles for the GH3, either the Tokina 11-16 with the Viltrox speed booster or the Laowa 7.5mm f2. And which one in your opinion is sharper, and which one would perform better in low light? And I've never used the Laowa, so I can't really say if it's sharper than the Tokina. It probably would be, because there's like less glass elements and it's probably better made. But if I was gonna pick, I'd probably go with the Tokina and Viltrox combo, just because if you get it in Canon mount, then you will have at least the option to do autofocus. Especially with the GH3, there's no focus peaking. So with the Laowa, you're gonna have to rely on just punching in and double checking your focus. Whereas with the Tokina, if you get it in Canon mount, you can just half press to focus. Especially if you're gonna be doing YouTube videos like this. If you're not, you might be able to get away with the Laowa. If you're using an external monitor, it would help too. But I don't have any experience with the Laowa, so I can't really say which one is best. I have had the Tokina before and I really liked it, so that's the combo that I would go with. So this question is by Health Made Easy. They ask, is there a big difference in lenses that are 5 to 10 focal lengths apart? Example, 30mm and 25mm on a micro four thirds camera. Now that's a really good question, and you might think that it's only like a 5mm difference, but in reality it's more like a 10mm difference, because with the 2x crop on micro four thirds cameras, a 25 is going to give you a 50mm field of view, and the 30 is going to give you a 60. So it might be like 5mm difference on like what the lenses say they are, but once you actually apply the crop factor, it's more like a 10mm difference. And that might not be that big of a deal on, like lenses in that focal length. Like the 25 and the 30, they're pretty close. And if you got the 30 and you wanted to get the same kind of framing as a 25, you just have to back up a little. But I think where it makes the most difference is in wide angle lenses. The difference between like a 12mm and like a 16 mil is actually like pretty substantial. The 12 mil is like a wide angle, whereas 16 is going to give you like a 32. You know, it might seem like there's only a 4mm difference, but in reality there's more like an 8. So this question is by Owen Poffenroth, and he asks, do you prefer zoom lenses or primes? I guess it just depends on which zooms and which primes, but right now I'm rocking primes, and I really like them because they're fast, they're smaller, they're lighter. You know, as far as zoom lenses go, the Sigma 18-35 is like a whole bunch of primes in one lens, but it's just really big, so that's why I don't use it anymore. But I like both for different reasons. For what I'm doing right now, primes just make the most sense. So this question is by Warren He, and he asks what my thoughts are on the Sigma 18-35. He's been using it for quite some time, but it's just so heavy, and would I recommend any lenses that could be a good substitute for Canon cameras? Now, honestly, if you have the Sigma 18-35, yeah, it is really big and heavy and cumbersome, and that's why I got rid of it. But if you're looking for something that's going to be a replacement for that, you're probably not going to find something that's going to give you the kind of results that you're used to with the 18-35 by Sigma. Any other lens is going to be either slower, not as sharp, or just as big and also slower. Like all the Canon L glass, you can get a 16-35 Canon L series lens, but it's going to be just as big and it's going to be slower. So honestly, the Sigma 18-35 is a really good combo for Super 35 APS-C cameras. And if you're looking for just something smaller to go on a gimbal or something like that, I would just say get a wide angle prime, or just like the Tokina 11-16 or something like that. That isn't as big, but yeah, you're not going to find anything that's going to give you the same kind of results as the Sigma 18-35 will. So this one's by John Aquilon. How to easily pull off focusing from a manual lens. This is the only issue when considering manual lenses for taking a YouTube headshot. Now, I've definitely dealt with this problem, and what I would do is I would just put a placeholder where I was going to sit. I would get behind my camera, manual focus on that, and then I'd go back and sit down. Especially with like longer lenses. With like the wide angle lenses, you can kind of just reach out and just, focus yourself that way. And with, cameras that have focus peaking, it's a lot easier. But yeah, that's what I would do, is just, have a placeholder. It could be a stuffed animal or a tripod or something like that. Have something where you're going to be, and then focus on that. And then just try not to like move around a lot when you talk, because then you're going to go in and out of focus. 12mm f1.4 versus 16 f1.4. Does the 4mm make a big difference? 16 is more affordable, but in terms of wideness and tight spaces, it might suffer from not being wide enough. Now, just like I was talking about in that other question, the 4mm is actually more like an 8mm difference. So again, 24 for the 12, 32 for the 16. I would probably suggest the 16 just because it's a lot more versatile of a lens. You can shoot landscape type stuff, you can shoot interviews and whatnot, but you can't do that with the 12. The 12 is kind of a one-trick pony, whereas 32mm is a lot more of a usable focal length than 24 is. But if you were doing stuff like me, where you're just sitting in front of your camera and you want a nice wide angle with, a shallow depth of field, the 12mm is a good option, but you don't have to get this 12mm. You can get the 12mm f2 by Olympus, or Rokinon, or the 14mm f2.5. You don't have to spend, the big bucks for the Panasonic Leica, but if you're really wanting this look, the Panasonic Leica 12mm f1.4 is really the only one that can give it to you in the Micro Four Thirds ecosystem. So this question is by Crunked Panda. Are you still using the Sigma 18-35, and would you recommend the Panny 12 over it? Now, I mentioned this already, but no, I don't use the Sigma anymore. It's really hard to recommend the Panasonic 12mm over the Sigma, because the Sigma does so much more. It just kind of depends on what you're shooting. If you're on gimbals a lot, the 12mm makes more sense. But if you're just kind of like a run and gun shooter and you're doing a lot of different things, from like, wide shots to like, mids, the Sigma obviously makes more sense to have. It is bigger and bulkier and heavier, but it does accomplish a lot more than the 12 does, and it's cheaper. 12mm is still like $800 if you can find it used, whereas the Sigma, you can usually get it for around $600. So like a $200 difference, and the Sigma you can do more with. So it's really hard to recommend the 12mm over the 18-35. So this question is from C. Sanchez Films. Best portrait lens for the Micro Four Thirds, and what do you think of the 10-25 from Panasonic? Best portrait lens, I used to have the 42.5 f1.7, and I really liked that lens. As I said, I have the 25mm Panasonic lens that I really like, and this is a great portrait lens. Give you a 50mm equivalent field of view. The only thing I don't like about this is that it's not weather sealed, and I feel like it should have been for the price that they were charging for this lens when it first came out. I got this one used, and this one's actually a pretty decent price. As far as the Panasonic 10-25, I am really stoked for that lens. It should be coming out pretty soon. I'm assuming that they're gonna announce an actual official release date at NAB just around the corner, but yeah, I'm really stoked on that one. And I don't know, I might end up selling both my primes and just getting that lens. It seems like it's gonna be a good alternative for people who don't want like the big Sigma Metabones combo. So this question is by Desi Farias. He's asking if he should get an additional lens to the 12-40 and 45mm lens from Olympus that he already has with his GH5 and GH4 bodies. Those two lenses are actually pretty good. You can cover most of your bases with the 12-40 and then the 45mm. I don't have a lot of experience with Olympus lenses, but I have heard only good things about both of those lenses. If you're really just wanting to spend more money on lenses, you could go with like a 25mm f1.8 by Olympus if you want to stay in like the Olympus lens system. And then the 12mm f2 is a pretty good like wide angle lens that can give you a little bit more of a shallower depth of field than your 12-40 could. So yeah, those are the two that I would probably get if I was you. So this question is by Eric and Miles, and they're asking what the best combination of lenses is, like a duo or a trio. And I would say the two lenses that I have, I think are the best for my specific situation, the 12 and the 25. But honestly, like the 12-35 by Panasonic and like, I don't know, the 42.5 f1.7, that's a really good combo. That can get you through a lot. A wide angle and then a mid, I feel like is what most people are gonna be using. I very rarely find myself using a telephoto focal length. So you can almost like, you know, postpone like the purchase of a telephoto lens. I think that the wide and the mid focal lengths are the most used, at least in my workflow. So that's what I would suggest for you too, is, you know, start off with a wide and a mid for your first two lenses. As far as like a trio, I would say an 85mm equivalent field of view would be a good third option. I'm probably going to invest in either the 45 macro Leica lens by Panasonic or the 42.5 f1.2, but that one's really expensive. On the cheaper end of things, you can get like the 14mm f2.5, the 20mm f1.7, and the 42.5 f1.7, and that would be a really good trio of lenses for Micro Four Thirds. So this question is from Antonio Di Cantarina, and he's torn between the Sigma 18-35 with a speed booster or the LUMIX 12-35. And he does photography and video, and he's asking which one he should get. There's pros and cons to both setup, and he has a GH5. There definitely is pros and cons to both of those. I know like YC Imaging used to use his 18-35 with the speed booster on his GH4 to take like product photos and stuff like that, and they looked great. So honestly, that's probably what I would go with if I was going to do both photo and videos. I think the 18-35 with the speed booster is probably going to give you more pleasing images. But that being said, if you're a real run and gun shooter and you travel a lot, having a native mount lens like the 12-35 is probably a better option for you in that scenario. And it's got image stabilization and it's really sharp, and you can do a lot with that lens. I really liked that lens when I had it. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're doing a lot of. If like the weight and size of the Sigma and speed booster combo isn't an issue for you, then I would go for that one. So this question is by Damien Laura, and they're asking, do you have any lenses, vintage maybe, that you would recommend under 50 bucks other than the Helios 44? If you're looking for vintage lenses, I would definitely suggest looking into Canon FD lenses. The Canon FD 50 f1.8 is really good if you can find it in, you know, good condition, and the 35-105 is also pretty good. Getting those lenses and adapting them to like Micro Four Thirds with like a focal reducer works really well. I did that with even my pocket cinema camera back when I had it, and I have this little guy. This is a little 25mm f1.4, which I'm going to be doing a direct comparison between this and my Panasonic Leica lens, and we're going to see how well this $25 lens compares to this $400 lens. But that should be pretty fun, so stay tuned for that. If you're looking for vintage lenses, again, I would definitely say look into Canon FDs. All right, we're almost done here. This is our last question by ALXMNR, so Alex MNR. What made you pick the 12mm? How much did you pay? Do you think that its performance justifies the amount that you paid for it? And what's your current lens kit? Yes, I did buy the 12mm used. I still bought it for around like 800 bucks, so it wasn't cheap. And do I think that the performance justifies how much I paid for it? Yeah, I do. I mean, I knew what I was getting into when I bought this lens, but I wanted a lens to do a specific thing for me. I wanted a wide angle with a wide aperture so that I could get some nice separation between me and the background. It is expensive, but I knew what I was getting into, and I think that it performs really well. A lot of people have told me that like I shouldn't shoot at f1.4 because it's not as sharp, but it's plenty sharp for me. I think it gets the sharpest at like f2 or f2.8, but I didn't buy it to use at f2.8. I bought it to use at f1.4, so that's what I've been shooting all my videos in recently. I definitely like this lens. It's not for everybody, but it serves a specific purpose for what I want to use it for. So yeah, I like it. And as far as my current lens kit, again, I own the 12mm f1.4 Leica and the 25mm f1.4 Leica. And I'm probably, again, going to be investing in either the 45 macro Leica lens or the 42.5, but I'm just not sure yet. Okay, we are done. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, mad props. Thank you so much for sticking with me. And hey, if you want to do me a really big favor, leave me a comment down below and tell me what my next Q&A should be focused on, because I definitely like focusing these Q&As on a specific subject so I can kind of keep it all in like one category. But yeah, leave me a comment and let me know what you'd like to see a new Q&A on. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. You can click in the description below to a bunch of gear that I currently use and recommend. I also have a link to my Sellfy for some of my $5 LUTs, my Patreon if you want to join me there, and my Teespring account if you want to buy some of my merch. There's also an affiliate link to Musicbed if you want to get some of the best music for your videos. Anyways, you can click over here if you want to check out some of my other videos, but until next time, I'll see you all later. Bye.